A university student by the name of Kuro Sakuragawa is seen sitting on a public bench when he is approached by a high school girl, Iwanaga Kotoko. The boy doesn't seem to know who the girl is, but the girl knows him. She reminds him that she was the one who saved him 2 years ago when he was about to fall at the hospital. Apparently, Kotoko has been in love with the boy ever since. Kuro, on the other hand, doesn't even remember the girl, not to talk of falling in love with her. Kotoko casually drops the bomb that she knows all about Kuro's recent return to singlehood, adding that his ex, Saki, is out of the picture. Kuro's jaw nearly hits the floor. "How on earth do you know that?" he asks. Playing it cool, Kotoko tells him about her little detective hobby. Apparently, the hospital staff are major gossips. "You've been what? Stalking me?" Kuro manages to say, trying to piece together his newly public love life. Kotoko nods, unbothered, explaining that she's been on a personal mission to update his relationship status. Thank goodness for chatty nurses, right? Why would the hospital staff spill my secrets like it's happy hour? Kuro wonders. Kotoko shrugs and says, "Well, you were just a visitor, not a VIP patient or anything. It's not like they had your info in a vault. It seems in the world of healthcare, patient confidentiality doesn't cover broken hearts." Kotoko finally lets out what is on her mind. She asks Kuro if he is ready to be in a relationship again, and this time around, she wants the relationship to be with her. She even wants them to get married and not only be in a relationship. Kuro reveals that he is not interested, but the girl keeps pestering him. She then decides to ask him how he ended up breaking up with Saki. Kuro narrates that he and Saki were walking home one night when a scary life form, Kappa, emerged from the river. Kuro knows Kappas to be non-aggressive creatures, but Kuro believes that this one is because a man's body was actually found in the river the next day. Kuro further explains that Saki is a brave person, but she got scared when she saw the Kappa. Kotoko wants to know what happened after that, and Kuro tells her that the Kappa suddenly turned tail and ran away. After this encounter, Saki breaks up with the guy, using the fact that she needs to move out of the city. After saying this, Kuro stands up to leave, but Kotoko stops him and lets him know that they are not done talking. She wants to know why the Kappa suddenly ran away. Kotoko then says the Kappa ran away because of Kuro, and this is what terrified Saki. She realizes that Kuro must be a mysterious person for the Kappa to have taken one look at him and gotten scared. Upon hearing this, Kuro tries to deny everything he has said, but the lady lets him know that she knows about the supernatural more than he even thinks. Kotoko then explains how she was kidnapped by the yokai and other spiritual beings when she was 11. She was held captive for 2 weeks, and they begged her to become their divine being of wisdom because they are creatures with low intellect. She accepted the role, and she has been the mediator between them and the human realm since then. Kuro doesn't want to believe this, and the girl tells him to find the news article from 6 years ago to confirm what she has just told him. Kotoko lets him know that she lost one leg and one eye in this encounter. After this has been said, Kotoko gets on the bus and leaves. While sitting on the bus, a ghost appears behind her, and it seems the ghost wants to attack her, but he only rushes toward Kotoko, telling her to be careful around Kuro. It appears that everyone in the spirit world is afraid of the Kuro for a reason yet unspecified. Kotoko tries to assure the ghost that they don't need to be afraid of the guy. The ghost tells her about a creature that is in the library and begs her to take care of it. Kotoko plans to do this the next day, as long as Kuro is there to assist her. A flashback scene shows when Kotoko was found after she was kidnapped. She was sitting on a public bench with little or no memory of what happened. She was rushed to the hospital, but one eye and one leg were gone. However, both injury sites are completely healed. It turns out that Kotoko lost these body parts in exchange for becoming the divine being of wisdom for the spiritual world. The next day, Kotoko runs into Kuro just as he is leaving the newspaper archives to confirm Kotoko's story. Even with what he has seen, he still doesn't believe the lady. Kotoko then tells him that he is free to believe her or not. Just then, a spiritual entity, Bake, shows up. He comes in the form of a human, but changes into a dog as he reaches there. The creature gets very scared when he looks to the front to find Kuro staring at him. Bake tells Kotoko to help them because the creature at the library is already getting out of hand. Kotoko then tells Kuro to come with her in an attempt to get rid of the yokai that is inside the library. He doesn't want to answer, but she finds a way to convince him. They get into the library and Kotoko tries to use her influence as a divine being to tame the yokai, but it doesn't work. The yokai attacks her, but Kuro is there to grab and take her away from danger. They decide to use force since the creature is not ready to surrender. Kotoko hits the monster with a fire extinguisher, but this is not enough to get rid of him. Kotoko falls to the ground, but Kuro catches her. The monster continues charging toward them, and Kotoko suggests that they run away, but he just stands there unfazed. The monster tries to gobble them up, but Kuro sacrifices his hand. He loses his left arm, but Kotoko is left in total shock when he sees Kuro's arm regrow. The monster then bloats and explodes. This This happens because Kuro's flesh is a poison to this creature. Kotoko is surprised to see this, and she asks the guy who he really is. Kuro doesn't know how to describe himself, but lets Kotoko know that he consumed the flesh of 2 different yokai when he was 11 years of age. Up next, Kuro and Kotoko meet at the hospital. Kotoko has been curious about Kuro since their last encounter. Kuro then reveals that he has been blessed with regenerative ability since he ate the flesh of a mermaid when he was 11. No matter how badly he gets hurt, he gets healed almost immediately. Kotoko knows that whoever eats a mermaid's flesh doesn't get old, but Kuro has been growing old, which begs the question. Kuro says the other yokai's flesh that he ate has been nullifying the mermaid's effect. Kotoko wants to know what the other yokai is, but he is not ready to divulge the details of that. Kotoko then asks Kuro if he would like to follow her to the next prefecture, where she is to see a giant serpent who is troubled about something. Kuro wonders why Kotoko is classified as a divine being, when she simply doesn't have any powers. He wants to know how she is going to handle herself in case she runs into another violent monster, like the one they fought in the library. Kotoko tells the guy to come with her if he is really worried about her. Kuro says he will not be able to come because he just wants to be at home to eat pork miso soup. Later that night, Kotoko angrily meets with the giant serpent all by herself. The serpent is glad to see the lady, and talks about how the humans who once worshipped him as a divine being have all abandoned him. He is not angry about this because he literally was not doing anything for them in the first place, but they assume that he is the divine being of rain who brings rain down for them. The giant serpent notices that Kotoko is not in a good mood, and she explains to him why this is so. Apparently she is angry with the fact that Kuro sat home to eat miso soup instead of coming with her. She even went to his house to try and convince, but he chased her away instead. Kotoko says Kuro was worried that she would get eaten by the serpent, but the serpent assures the lady that he will never do such a thing. In fact, he calls it a hassle to eat humans because of their clothes and metal things that they might have on them. When Kotoko asks him if he has ever eaten humans, the serpent finds it hard to give a straightforward answer. While they are discussing, Kuro arrives in the forest but doesn't make his presence known. He can hear and see the serpent and Kotoko discussing from where he is standing. The serpent and Kotoko finally get down to the business of the day. He wants to know why someone dumped a body in the swamp where he reigns. Apparently, a month ago, the body of a man, Yoshihara Hiru, who worked for a construction company, was found in the swamp by 2 hikers. Tanyo Aoi, our suspect of the hour, ended up in handcuffs after taking swamp dumping a little too literally. She tried to play it cool when the police asked her about her eerie choice of a bog for body disposal. "Oh, you know, just trying to feed the local serpent," she said, as if she were talking about tossing bread at ducks. She spun a tale about a legendary serpent known to snack on humans, hoping it would gulp down her problems along with the body. But the serpent itself smelt something fishy, or should we say swampy. It remembered Tanyo saying, "I hope they find you." That doesn't exactly scream dinner invitation. The difference in wording had both the serpent and Kotoko scratching their heads, or scales. They were determined to slither into the depths of the mystery to uncover why Tanyo really chose the swamp finale for her personal horror movie. Was it a dramatic flair, or did she have another murky motive? The serpent knew it was onto something. After all, if it were just about getting rid of the body, "I hope you get eaten" would have sufficed. Looking over the case again, Kotoko has figured out that Tanyo had a boyfriend who died 5 years ago. This man, Machi, terminated himself alongside a co-worker of his who is a lady. It was found out that Machi embezzled money, and this is probably the reason he terminated himself. Tanyo returned to the town after this incident and soon found a job to keep herself busy. 5 years later, which is the present day, Tanyo receives a visit from Yoshihara, who was Machi's former co-worker. He confesses to the fact that he was the one who terminated Machi and the lady. He was also the one who embezzled the money. He comes to confess to Tanyo because he has been met with a series of misfortune, and he believes that the incident of 5 years ago is what is causing this. His family has died, and he himself has also been diagnosed with cancer. After hearing this, Tanyo terminates the man according to the confession she gave the police. It turns out that Yoshihara had previously contacted Machi's brother but was unable to reach him, and this is the reason he came to Tanyo. Putting all of these together, Kotoko comes to the conclusion that Tanyo is not the real killer. Machi's brother later met up with Yoshihara and Tanyo at her place. There is the possibility that Machi's brother was the one who angrily terminated the man after he heard everything Yoshihara did to his brother. Tanyo then decides to protect the young man because he still has a bright future ahead of him. After going through all the possibilities, Kotoko says the main reason that Tanyo threw the body inside the swamp is to make the serpent bring down rain so that it can clean any traces of Machi's brother around her house. Kotoko believes that most of everything that Tanyo confessed to the cops is true, but the only thing that she is now confused about is the reason she actually threw the body into the swamp. Just then, Kuro shows himself, and it appears that he is ready to help Kotoko out concerning the investigation. Kotoko continues with her deduction by saying Tanyo must have dumped the body into the swamp with the hope that the police would help her find what she was looking for. Kotoko believes that the lady had previously dumped something into the river, and she wants it back now. She knows the police will take their job seriously when she tells them that she dumped the body in the river so that the snake can eat it. With everything that Kotoko has been able to figure out, she believes that whatever Tanyo throws in the river is related to her ex-boyfriend. She must have wanted to get rid of everything that concerned him after his death, but after learning the truth, she feels guilty and wants that thing back. In all confidence, Kotoko believes Tanyo found out she was pregnant after Machi died. She didn't want it and suffered a miscarriage because of this. She then takes the fetus and disposes of it inside the swamp. After learning the truth, she gets heartbroken and wishes to find the fetus so she can give it a proper burial. She knew to dump the corpse into the river because she had once dumped the fetus there before. After saying all of these, the giant serpent says humans are truly capable of doing frightful things. With this, Kotoko and Kuro leave the mountains. On their way home, Kotoko tells Kuro that she is able to come up with her deductions because of her yokai friends. She has had them gather pieces of information beforehand. As they proceed further, Kuro tells Kotoko to be careful because she is pretty powerless and can be endangered at any time. Kotoko hears this and uses that to tell Kuro to stay by her side always if he is really worried about her. In the next scene, a young man is seen fantasizing about melons while driving when he suddenly sees a lady in front of him. He gets scared and drives off the bridge. Later on, Saki, who now works as a traffic corp, is seen talking to her boss, Terada, concerning this case. The statement that Saki got from the young man is that she saw a lady wearing a red dress and also armed with a steel bar standing in the middle of the road. However, Saki decided to go with another report that the young man saw a puppy. Apparently, there is a rumor going on that an idol who died some months back, Nanase Karen, is back in town. The lady is said to have died after steel bars fell on her. The rumor is spreading around town that Nanase shows up every night wielding a steel bar. Terada doesn't believe in ghosts and he assumes that someone else is behind all of these. Saki hears everything that Terada has to say, and she realizes that the guy doesn't believe in ghosts, but she does. She believes that Nanase is as real as it gets, and when the police finally figure this out, it will be difficult for them to handle. As Terada is about to leave, Saki tells him that there are supernatural beings that exist. He has never seen a ghost, but she knows that yokais and the like are present in the world. He lets Terada know that this is the reason she broke up with her ex. Just the thought of this makes Saki want to puke, and she runs into the restroom to ease herself. Upon leaving the restroom, she tells Terada that there are beings that surpass human reasoning and logic. Terada still doesn't seem to believe it, and he leaves. This makes Saki remember the night they saw the Kappa, and how terrified the creature was when it saw Kuro. Earlier, she saw Kuro get hurt, but the injury healed immediately. Since that day, she has been cautious, and always assumes that there are supernatural beings around her. She is on her way home that night when she runs into Kotoko, but the two don't seem to remember or even know each other. She is surprised when Kotoko tells her to run away from the scene. Suddenly, the environment changes, and Nanase shows up. Saki is scared, but doesn't want to show her fear. She decides to take on the ghost all by herself. She charges toward the lady and tries to punch it, but her hand just goes through. Saki gets thrown to the floor, and she is about to be terminated when Kotoko steps in and pushes away the ghost. She starts fighting the ghost, and in the process of this, her prosthetic leg falls off. However, the faceless ghost decides to back off after she faces resistance from the two. After the ghost has disappeared, Saki starts to wonder what sort of person Kotoko is for her to be able to hit the ghost when she is unable to. Kotoko picks up her prosthetic leg, tells Saki to forget about the ghost, and lets her handle it. Kotoko is about to leave when Saki draws her back to show Kotoko her police ID to let her know that she can help. This is the moment that Kotoko realizes that the person standing in front of her is Kuro's ex-girlfriend. She then uses the opportunity to introduce herself to Saki and let her know that she is Kuro's current girlfriend. Her introduction comes with Saki punching her in the face for this. Kotoko, with all the subtlety of a marching band, decides to follow Saki all the way to her house. Upon arrival, she introduces herself with the poise of someone at a job interview, proudly declaring she's now 19, and they first met in the starry halls of University Hospital. Saki, probably wondering if this was a surprise fan meet, raised her eyebrows, questioning if Kotoko really was Kuro's girlfriend. Kotoko confirms with a nod, then goes full drama club president, scolding Saki for breaking Kuro's heart. Saki, playing the misunderstood ex, sighs and confesses she just couldn't deal with the relationship issues. They weren't exactly the kind you could solve with a box of chocolates. Curious, Saki probes into who Kotoko actually is beyond her apparent role as Kuro's new love interest. With the confidence of a Wikipedia page, Kotoko declares herself the divine being of wisdom for all things spooky like specters, yokai, and any other supernatural beings that go bump in the night. She's basically like a supernatural diplomat, bridging the gap between our world and the eerie unknown. So basically, the next time you have a ghost complaining about noisy neighbors, you know who to call. Kotoko and Saki start talking about Nanase. Saki is worried that the ghost might actually terminate someone if they don't do something about it soon. She was more violent than Saki thought she would be. Saki then asks Kotoko why Kuro is not with her since the case she is working on is quite risky. Kotoko starts cooking up lies to cover up the real reason Kuro is not with her, but Saki can clearly see through her lies. Kotoko is forced to give up the truth, and she tells Saki that she has no idea where the guy is. He dropped a text for her 2 weeks ago, telling her that he was leaving to get something done and would not want Kotoko to come looking for him. The two end up arguing about how Kuro wouldn't have ghosted Saki for 2 weeks, assuming they were together. However, in all of these, Saki can clearly see that Kotoko likes Kuro because she is staying with him, and this is something she could not do. Saki is able to figure out that Kotoko's right is fake, and Kotoko lets her know that she lost in exchange for being a divine being. After this, Kotoko leaves Saki's house. She never thought she would ever run into Saki like she just did. A giant skeleton is already waiting to transport Kotoko from the house as she steps out. Saki then starts looking into Nanase. She is able to find out that the lady came to the limelight some months ago. While Saki is doing her research, she finds a website that contains everything concerning Nanase. Everything was going well for Nanase Karin until her father died in June. He fell down the stairs and died, which was ruled out to be an accident. However, some weird things start to surface that Nanase is responsible for her father's death. Rumors had it that Nanase wanted the huge life insurance that was attached to her father's life. A note that talks about how Nanase's father suspected that his daughter wanted to terminate him also surfaced online. Everything soon spread like wildfire, and Nanase started to move from one hotel to another in an attempt to escape the media. She later came to Makurazaka City, where she died close to her hotel. After gathering all of these pieces of information, Saki sits down to talk with her boss again. Terada actually believes in ghosts, but he feels like there is something artificial about Nanase. He talks about how there must be something else behind Nanase that they have yet to figure out. If Nanase had come back as a vengeful spirit, she would have a list of targets and not just go around, showing herself to the masses. However, Terada doesn't want to rule out any possibilities. He wants to do a thorough investigation, and he decides to hand over some of the case's documentation to Saki so she can go through them. Later on, Kotoko sits down to do her own investigation too. She wonders why there is no sense of purpose in Nanase's ghost. She feels like a puppet who has someone controlling her. While doing her research, she found the same website that Saki found, and she realizes that there is a perfect image representing Nanase on the site. She believes that the image was drawn by someone who has seen Nanase physically, but something suddenly occurs to her, and she realizes that it is quite the opposite. However, to solidify what she thinks, she needs accurate information, and the only place to get this is from the police. She realizes that she has no choice but to talk to Saki again. Continuing with her investigation, Saki finds out that the first person to discover Nanase's body is an old man. The man remembered hearing some beam steel falling the night before when rain was falling. He gets there the following morning to find Nanase's body under the beams. Her face has been crushed, and the cops were only able to identify her with the help of cell phone, wallet, and university ID. After some investigations had been made, it was concluded that the girl died due to an accident. Saki is in the middle of this investigation when a spiritual being shows up at her window. He has come to tell Saki that Kotoko needs her help, and she wants them to meet. If she refuses to answer, Kotoko has threatened to send spiritual beings to her window every night to scare her. Saki screams out that she is being bullied, but has no choice but to bend to Kotoko's wishes. Shortly afterward, Kotoko is seen in a restaurant, waiting for Saki to come when one of her spiritual subjects emerges to tell her that Nanase has appeared somewhere. She tells her subject to stay in the restaurant and informs Saki of where she went when the lady shows up. Kotoko quickly gets on her bicycle and starts riding to where the ghost has appeared. She gets to the scene to find the ghost fighting someone, and the person she is fighting is none other than Kuro. This leaves her surprised as she stands in the distance while the two fight each other. Kotoko starts to wonder what Kuro is doing at the scene. Kuro doesn't appear to know any martial arts skills with the way he is moving, but he still doesn't appear to be scared of the ghost. He gets hurt, but immediately gets healed once this happens. Moments later, Saki shows up at the scene too, and she is surprised to find Kuro fighting the ghost, just as Kotoko was surprised when she first saw it. She suggests that Kotoko help Kuro, but Kotoko lets her know that Kuro doesn't need any help. She just wants them to stand back and watch everything unfold. Kotoko knows that Kuro will be safe, and this is thanks to the mermaid flesh that he ate when he was little. Just then, Kuro trips and falls on his back, giving Nanase the opportunity to bash his head in. Saki is terrified when she sees this, and Kotoko wonders why the lady cannot just accept the fact that Kuro is an extraordinary being. All of Kuro's relatives are dead, leaving practically only him alive. Shortly afterward, Kuro comes back to life, and he goes after the ghost again. Nanase swings the beam, but Kuro suddenly stops, causing the beam to miss him. Kuro gets behind the ghost and holds her neck from behind. This comes as a surprise to Saki, and she wonders why Kuro was able to predict that Nanase will swing the beam that way. Saki doesn't know how this happened, but Kotoko does. Apparently, Kuro is also able to predict the future, thanks to the flesh of the prophetic beast, the Kudan that he ate alongside the mermaid's flesh. This is the secret of the Sakuragawa family. This started generations before Kuro, when the head of the house tried to find the key to predicting the future, and he had his family eat the flesh of a Kudan, but all those who ate it died one way or the other. Some died after making a prediction about the future, while others could just die from excessive bleeding. It is known that the Kudan dies after making a prediction about the future. This means the Kudan only has one shot at predicting the future, and it is always about misfortunes. Later on, the family head realizes that they need immortal bodies if they want to stay alive after gaining the Kudan's power. He started having his family consume the mermaid's flesh to get this done. This even became worse, and the number of victims went up than before. The experiment is then abandoned, but years later, Kuro and his family sit down for a dinner that is supervised by his grandmother. In an unfortunate turn of fate that makes final exams look like a walk in the park, everyone around Kuro mysteriously kicks the bucket, leaving him untouched, much to the peculiar delight of his grandmother. With the excitement of a mad scientist, she turns Kuro into her personal lab rat to test if he's really immortal. After enduring a marathon of bizarre experiments, Kuro becomes so accustomed to pain that he basically checks out from the whole feeling pain department. Fast forward to the present day, where Kuro is wrestling with a ghost as if it's Friday Night WWE. He successfully pins the ghost down and gives her the old neck twist move, hoping it's lights out for her. But alas, this ghost must have taken resilience tips from a rubber band because she pops right back up. Kotoko, ever the strategic thinker, tells Kuro to drop the wrestling act because it's clear they need a new game plan to handle Nanase, the comeback queen of specters. True to form, Nanase grabs her beam, because what's a ghost without her trusty beam, and vanishes like a magician running out of a bad gig. Kuro walks toward the two and asks Saki what she is doing at the scene. She lets him know that she is working as a cop in the city. Saki asks him if Kotoko really is his girlfriend, and he confirms this. Kuro forces Kotoko to apologize to Saki because he knows that she must have caused Saki some trouble. After this, they head to Saki's house to straighten some things out concerning the current case. Saki asks Kuro if he is fighting Nanase because of Kotoko, and he tells her that Kotoko was the one who called him to the city, but he ran into some spiritual beings who were scared of Nanase. The spiritual beings are no longer scared of him because they know he is a friend to their divine being, and they decide to ask him for help, to which he obliges. Kotoko tells Kuro that the reason the spiritual beings are scared of him is the way he appears to them. He looks like a mermaid mixed with a Kudan in human form. Continuing with the case, Kotoko tells Kuro and Saki that Nanase can be killed, but she just appears to be difficult because she is a monster of imagination. She then starts to explain to Saki how monsters of imagination are born among the other spiritual beings. Once a particular lie is spread across, and it is believed by many people, it gives birth to monsters of imagination. All it needs is for a rumor to be solidified and a monster will come out of it. It will feed on people's desire and imagination to remain alive. The reason Nanase is just appearing after a year of dying is because it takes time to spread information. The internet can be used, and to point out an example, the Steel Lady Nanase wiki is mentioned. Kotoko is glad that Saki knows about the wiki because this will make things easy for her. Kotoko tells Saki that everything is backward. The image on the site is what Nanase took on. The image was modeled after a ghost, and this is what Nanase took on when she appeared. In short, the ghost appeared because the wiki was created. This means the website is the true identity of Steel Lady Nanase. To put it into context, Nanase's life doesn't come from her, but from the desires of others. No matter how many times they terminate her, she will keep coming over and over again. Kuro is worried about this, and he asks Kotoko how they are to defeat Nanase, because they are simply making her more powerful on the site. Kotoko replies that the only solution that they have is to conquer the imagination that gave rise to Nanase. To create a story that surpasses the rumors of Steel Lady Nanase, Kotoko needs vital pieces of information, and she believes that Saki is capable of providing that. They need to find a way to reverse the story, and once this is done, Nanase will lose her vitality, forcing her to disappear permanently. Kotoko doesn't want to get her information online because writing a story that has an error in it might be called out later. This will automatically ruin everything that they have done, and this is the reason she needs credible information from the police. Saki wants to deny that she has pieces of information concerning the case, but Kotoko knows far more than she thinks she does. She jumps on Saki's bed to bring out the case file under her pillow. Saki realizes that she no longer has a choice to come clean, and she decides to help Kotoko out. Kotoko tells her that she just needs to create a story that everyone will believe. Saki then decides to read out the case file so that Kotoko and Kuro can hear and pick up as much information as they can from this. After Nanase was discovered dead, one of the first questions that came to mind was what she was doing at the construction site. Kuro says the only explanation behind this is that someone called her to meet them there. However, the police also believe that there is a possibility that Nanase went to the site to have a smoke. There were cigar butts on the site, and a lighter was also found in her pocket. The idea that she was with someone was also not ruled out, but there is no way for them to confirm this because it was raining and any footprint would have washed off. The only person she was contacting on her phone was her manager. Another possibility is the fact that she intentionally stood there to allow the beam to fall on her because she was feeling so much pressure from everything going on around her concerning her father's death. One other possibility is the fact that someone knocked her out and caused the beam to fall on her to permanently terminate her. In the end, her death was ruled out to be an accident, and the only person who might have been suspected of terminating her is her elder sister, Hatsumi. This is because Karen's death will give Hatsumi all rights to the inheritance. However, Hatsumi had an alibi, and this possibility was ruled out. After hearing all of these, Kuro decides to ask Kotoko if she has used her usual orthodox method to carry out an investigation, and she says yes. She suggests that the two go out with her, and they agree. Moments later, they arrive at the construction site where Nanase died, and Saki questions the reason why they came there months after the girl is dead. She believes that there is no other evidence that they can get from there again. Kotoko then uses her power to create a magic circle, calling out a ghost. The ghost died at the site and has been staying on the site ever since. Saki runs into cover when she sees the ghost. Kotoko then asks the ghost if she knows anything about Nanase's death. The guy reveals that he witnessed it happen. He tells Kotoko that the girl didn't move when the beam fell on her, as if she wanted it to happen. After she hears this, Kotoko says the police are efficient and it appears that their conclusions were right. Kotoko then tells Saki that she is going to build a believable fiction. Saki doesn't know if Kotoko's lie will hold, but Kotoko is betting on the fact that Kuro can make the lie 100%. After this, the trio leaves the site. Saki heads home, while Kuro and Kotoko head another way. Kotoko asks Kuro if he has booked a hotel in the area, but he says no. Kuro then assures Kotoko that he will die as many times just so he can get Kotoko the future that will go along with the lie that she is about to cook up. It turns out that there are different possibilities in the future and Kuro can only pick one at a time. Kotoko remembers when Kuro was explaining this to her. This was also the same day that she told him that she had gained admission into the same university as Kuro. Kuro doesn't waste time telling Kotoko to be careful again. He lets her know that he has the power to come back to life, but once Kotoko dies, that is the end of it. Kotoko starts thinking of how she is going to create a possibility that will give Kuro the best future to pick from in order to defeat Nanase. As they continue further, Kuro assures Kotoko that the possibility of him and Saki coming back together is very low. Kotoko is worried that the reality she is trying to create depends on the fact that Nanase has not terminated anyone yet. Once she terminates someone, creating the solution will be more difficult. Unfortunately, Terada runs into Nanase that night, and his inability to believe that Nanase is truly a ghost costs him his life. Once Terada dies, the news spreads so quickly on the wiki, telling everyone that Nanase has terminated someone. The person in charge of the wiki can be seen in front of her laptop computer controlling everything from behind the scenes. The following day, Saki is seen in the interrogation room answering questions about where she was when Terada was killed. She tells them everything she knows, and soon afterward, the news is everywhere about the death of the police officer. After the questioning, the police chief comes to console Saki. He knows that the two were already close before his death. The police chief believes that Terada was terminated by someone who held a grudge against him, but mentions the fact that rumor is already spreading that Nanase was the one who terminated the officer. Saki actually knows that Nanase was the one who terminated Terada, but there is no way that she can tell the police chief. After the chief leaves, she gets a text from Kotoko, telling them to meet. Saki knows that only her, Kotoko, and Kuro can bring the culprit to justice. Kotoko is seen in her hotel room trying to put together everything that has happened so far. She is so invested in this that Kuro is even telling her to try and rest. It appears that Terada was a known martial artist, and for him to have his head bashed in somehow proves to some people that he was terminated by the ghost. After saying all of these, Kotoko mentions the fact that she thinks Rika is in the middle of it all, and Kuro agrees to this. We will get to know who Rika is later in the video. Moments later, Saki arrives at the hotel room. Saki asks Kotoko if there is any chance that Terada will become a wandering ghost, but Kotoko says no. She lets her know that not everyone who dies becomes a ghost, except those who still have an attachment to the world. Kotoko then lets it out that there is the possibility that there will be another victim that night because the rumor about Nanase is now spreading, and this is fueling her strength. Kuro says it will become worse if a video or picture of her is captured and circulated. This will render the logical fiction that they are working on totally useless. Nanis will not remain, because people want her, but because they are scared that she will come for them. The fear that there is someone like her will continue to make her grow. Kotoko then reveals the importance of defeating Nanase that night, or else there is nothing else to be done. Kotoko then tells Saki to gather all the information that she can to help her fabricate a very good story. As Kotoko starts thinking about what to write or say, she starts to realize that things are pretty much more difficult than she thought. The mere thought of the presence of Nanase makes things difficult for them. Saki is also worried about this because she knows that they need to present their case in such a way that will convince those who think Nanase exists. Even though they have Kuro by their side, she thinks they are still in a very difficult situation. Kuro then lets the two know that he is ready to create multiple possibilities for them so that they can get the perfect one to get rid of Nanase. To do this, Kuro will have no choice but to die multiple times, but he is ready for this. Saki can see how calm Kotoko is, and she realizes that the girl is busy coming up with ways to get out of the situation. After a brief silence, Kotoko eats a brick of chocolate, heaves a sigh of relief, and tells the two that she has come up with 4 solutions. She is ready to put everything she has into the fight and make sure that Nanase is defeated. Kuro stands up to pat her on the head, and this makes her feel sleepy. Before falling on the bed, she tells Kuro to wake her up before 9 p.m. After she sleeps, Kuro tells Saki that they should leave to get something to eat. They have also informed all the other spiritual beings to make it known if they see Nanase anywhere. Kuro wants to procure a rental car, which Saki agrees to help him with. The two are about to enter the elevator when Saki mentions the fact that Kotoko is not Kuro's type, but they are somehow doing fine. She says this is a good thing for Kuro because he will no longer have to chase after Rika. Kuro is surprised to hear this and wonders why Saki just brought up Rika's name. Saki then says she did because she knows that Rika is his type. Apparently Rika is Kuro's cousin, who is 3 years older than him. The last she heard of Rika was that she was dead. She knows that she was hospitalized when she and Kuro were dating. She remembers the first time she saw Rika when they went to visit her in her hospital room. Rika is a beautiful lady with pale skin and a frail body. When she sets her eyes on Rika, she believes that Rika must have been Kuro's first love. Just seconds after Kuro introduces her to Rika, Saki gets nervous and leaves the room. Now in the present day, Saki says she understands if Kuro is with Kotoko so he can forget about Rika, but Kuro lets her know that Rika is not dead but alive. He tells Saki that Rika is his cousin, and this leaves Saki in total shock. She finally realizes that Rika is also a Sakuragawa. Shortly afterward, Kotoko wakes up from her nap and notices that there is tension between the two. She doesn't waste time and starts thinking that the two have done something together while she is sleeping. She blames herself for giving the two time to be together. Kuro breaks the silence when he gives Kotoko her meal. He tells her that he will be waiting in the corner so as not to scare away the yokai, and that will be coming to tell her when Nanase is around. After Kuro leaves, Kotoko and Saki sit in the car to wait for Nanase to appear. Moments later, Saki asks Kotoko if she knows about Rika, and she says yes. Saki then tries to trick Kotoko into spilling the fact that Rika also ate mermaid and kudan flesh, but Kotoko catches on to this. Kuro had once told Kotoko that he didn't tell Saki about what was happening with Rika or his family. When Saki asks Kotoko how Rika is, she says the lady is doing fine. She reveals that Rika came to live at her mansion after she was discharged from the hospital due to political reasons. A flashback scene shows the doctor telling Rika about her discharge, and she tells them to contact his cousin. Once she is ready to go, it dawns on the two that Rika has nowhere to live, and Kuro doesn't want her to stay with him. He then decides to call Kotoko for help. Kotoko tells him that she is only going to help him on one condition, and that is if he gives her one of his room keys. Kotoko doesn't want to do this, but he has no choice, but he is in dire need of help. Upon accepting her proposal, Rika moved to Kotoko's mansion. There were plenty of vacant rooms in the house, so Rika had a lot to choose from. In addition to that, Kotoko's mother welcomed the lady with open arms because she had been hospitalized for the past 5 years. Now in the present day, Saki asks Kotoko if Rika hates her, but she says no. She wonders why Saki would think Rika hated her. Kotoko reveals that there was some sort of tension between them when they first met, but the two found a way to play around it and became friends. A month ago, Rika crafted the perfect disappearing act, telling Kotoko and her mom she'd snagged a new job and a pad of her own, complete with an address. Plot twist, the address was as real as a $3 bill. When Kuro caught wind of this, it wasn't the charm of the big city or Kotoko's invitation that pulled him in. He was on a mission to track down his elusive cousin. As it turns out, playing detective led them to suspect Rika was the mastermind behind their escalating supernatural snafus. While they racked their brains, Kotoko recalled Rika's fondness for tapping away at the computer, seemingly dabbling in innocent digital mischief. Little did they know, Rika wasn't just spamming keyboard keys, she was busy conjuring up a wiki, a magical portal breathing life into Nanase right under their noses. Suddenly, Kotoko's memories of Rika's harmless typing took on a whole new, spine-chilling dimension. It was after she saw the picture on the wiki site that she and Kuro realized that Rika was responsible. Apparently, Rika started drawing a year ago, and this is the type of image that she draws. Kuro also came to the city after he realized this. Rika is probably able to bring Nanase to life and nurture her to become that powerful because she shares the same ability with Kuro. She is also able to go into the future to get the perfect possibility for herself. Kotoko believes that the lady created the monster to know how far she can go with her powers. Just then, one of the yokai shows up to tell Kotoko that Nanase has appeared. They start the car, pick up Kuro on the way, and start going to the scene where the monster has appeared. On their way, Kotoko thinks of how it is her duty to protect both the spiritual realm and the human realm. At the same time, Rika can be seen sitting in front of her computer system to get the business of the night running. She holds a knife to terminate herself and possibly pick a future that is best for her. Shortly afterward, Kuro and his friends arrive on the scene and they find Nanase. Kuro steps out of the car to fight the ghost while Kotoko tries to provide a solution while she sits in the car. She is connected to the wiki page and she is prepared to write things that go against the belief of ghosts. Saki is worried that Rika will delete the post since she owns the page, but Kotoko says she will not want to do this because this will only weaken the belief that the people have. She needs to give room for people to be against her too, or else everything will come crashing down. Kotoko says she is about to create a forum for a committee. As long as she is able to get some people to disagree with the fact that Nanase exists, she should be able to get rid of the monster that Rika has created. Kotoko is ready to put everything she has into the lies and defeat Rika at her own game. Kotoko then starts by typing in the group chat if the people really believe that Nanase really exists, or if it is something fictional. There have been no pictures or videos of Nanase, she says. She lets them know that Nanase's character was developed by someone who is hiding behind the shadows to commit crimes. She says the culprit created Nanase for their own agenda and uses this to shift people's attention away from the real deal. The culprit used this opportunity to terminate Detective Terada and have the people believe that the man unalived by a ghost. Kotoku continues typing on the site, trying to convince the people that Nanase isn't real. She even says the Nanase character that they see is the killer dressed in a costume. They paint a stick red and wear a convincing costume to let the people think that they are real. Kotoku lies that the character was created to get Terada alone, because he is actually the killer's target. The killer was able to get Terada to come to the abandoned gas station, lying that he had information about the prankster. Kotoko claims that the killer actually rigged the area with a few things before Terada arrived. They placed a pendulum on the roof and attached a rope to it. The killer set it up in such a way that they can use the remote to activate the trap. The killer then gets Terada on the spot that they want him to be, and activates the pendulum. This swings across the station and splits the detective's head open. Kotoku tells them that the pendulum hit the detective before he can even react, and this was how the killer was able to terminate the able-bodied man without having to struggle with him. After the killer has done this, they clear all the evidence from the scene. After she said this, some people on the site started to put up questions concerning what she had posted. They talk about how Terada should have seen the pendulum, and Kotoko decides to come up with another lie. She lets them know that the killer didn't place the pendulum precisely to hit Terada in the face. The killer placed it there with the hope that it would hit Terada anywhere, and unfortunately, it did in the face. Terada dies from this, and this is just perfect for what they want because they can easily pin it on the ghost. After hearing all of these, another question comes up as to why the killer went through all those hassles just to terminate someone when they could have easily obtained poison. Kotoko says the killer didn't use poison because they wanted to get as far away from the investigation as possible. The killer also avoided fighting Terada because they were weaker than him and needed a way to terminate him without having to struggle with him. With this point, Kotoko lets everyone know that the killer is definitely a woman. Kotoko continues further that the woman is someone who is close to Terada and whom she trusts. She is someone who knows everything about Terada, and this is the reason she was able to call Terada to the gas station, and he actually went there. With all of these, Kotoko says the culprit is a female officer who works in the same department as Terada. Saki is reading the posts, and she is surprised as to how fast Kotoko can come up with all the lies she has been telling on the site. Kuro soon gets hit in the face, and he dies from this. Saki realizes that Kuro is possibly trying to find a future that fits Kotoko's story. Suddenly it dawns on Saki that the female police killer that Kotoko has been describing on the forum actually fits her personality. She points it out, and Kotoko doesn't deny it. Kotoko says she needs to use someone who is not random. Everything is already going their way until it starts to fall apart again, and this leaves Saki surprised. Just then, she realizes that Rika also has the same ability as Kuro. This gives her the power to change the future just as Kuro is trying to do. Kotoko is able to figure out that most of the posts are being written by Rika herself. It is basically a battle between Rika and Kotoko. While Rika is also doing this, she is picking the best future that goes with her agenda. With this, Rika has an advantage over them. Kuro comes back to life and he starts battling it out with the ghost again. Kotoku says it is now time for solution 2. Meanwhile, Nanase's ghost picture already has a crack, and it appears that Kotoku has made progress already. Kotoko then starts with the solution number 2, and this is to tell the people on the forum that Nanase is a real ghost. However, she is going to use this argument to destroy her character from within. She tells them that Nanase came back to life because she was overwhelmed with regrets. She was driven to self-termination by society, and this is one of the reasons she came back as a vengeful spirit. Kotoko starts diving more into fiction since most of those who believe that Nanase exists believe in fiction. Kotoko decides to take them back in time to when Nanase was accused of being her father's killer. It was actually someone who set a trap for her and she fell into it. Kotoko then says something risky by saying the first person to actually start making things hard for Nanase was her father. He was the first person who accused her of murder and made everything difficult for her. Kotoko says her father did all of these to ruin Nanase's success. He resented his daughter and he decided to terminate himself. However, he made sure to put something in place that would make his daughter also terminate herself not long after he was gone. This is why he left the note to be found. Once Nanase dies, her spirit moves to the other world where she meets with her father. She then hears the truth from her own father, and this prevents her from moving on. She was filled with regrets and came back to the world to try and show the people the truth about her death. Kotoko lets the people know that Nanase has become a monster because of what happened to her, but this can be prevented and taken back once they show her love and let her remember how beautiful she once was. She assures them that the ghost will disappear once she is able to find peace, and the people are the only ones who can do this. After she says this, the people start to accept her suggestion, and another crack appears in the image. Nanase starts to get weak after this, but Rika gets into action too, and starts to do her thing. She terminates herself to get control of the situation again. Kotoko then tells Saki that it is time for her to move to the third solution. She says Nanase is a fake ghost who was created by a living being. After Nanase terminates herself because she can no longer make a comeback in the industry, her sister finds it hard to believe that she is actually dead. Her sister believes that Nanase isn't the one who died, but a double. It is possible to set everything up and make it look like the corpse is actually Nanase. Kotoko says there is the possibility that Hatsumi and her sister were not on good terms, and this is the reason she leaked the note to the media. After her sister dies, Hatsumi starts to wonder if her sister has truly died, or if she faked it so she can get revenge on her. She gets scared that she will soon be terminated just like Nanase was. She got paranoid, and everything seemed like a danger to her. Someone noticed that Hatsumi was breaking down because of this, and decided to help her out. The said person wanted to make Hatsumi believe that her sister was dead. She created the Nanase ghost and started attacking people at night. Regular people will not be at ease after they find out that their family member is really dead, but this appears to be a huge relief to Hatsumi. No one knows who the suspect is, and there is the possibility that they are someone who is in love with Hatsumi. After going so far for Hatsumi, he tries to further their relationship, but ends up hurting Hatsumi. Kotoko then says it will be best if they find the culprit and stop him quickly. By the time Kotoko is done delivering the third solution, things start to go their way. However, things take another turn when Nanase starts getting stronger again. Rika comes up with a counter strategy to what Kotoko has been saying. It appears that Nanase is now even stronger than she was before. Even with the variations that are happening, Kotoko remains unfazed. She assures Saki that everything is going according to how she wants. The 3 previous solutions that she has provided are essential to what she is about to do. She has found a way to chip into the viewer's mindset to create doubt about everything they have believed in. Kotoko then decides to move to the next solution, which is the last one. She tells the people that the real Nanase is still alive, and she was the one who created the ghost. The people don't want to believe this, but she starts to explain to them how it came to be. She tells them that Nanase was intent on starting over because she could not handle the pressure that comes with her fame and all the family issues. She is at the park one day when she sees a lady that resembles her, and she approaches her. Let us believe that this lady is Miss A. Unfortunately, Miss A is also depressed, and Nanase sees this as the best opportunity for her to start over. She lured Miss A to her room and make her dependent on her. She made Miss A trusted her, and after this she started changing A's appearance. She tells A that she needs her to act as her double so she can escape the media. Later on, Nanase tells A to meet her at the construction site at night. A gets there but doesn't know that Nanase has ill intentions toward her. Nanase appears from where she is hiding and knocks out A. After she is knocked out, Nanase pushes over the steel beams that crush A's face. Nanase then falsifies the environment and leaves. After she has done this, she assumes A's identity and uses that to start over. She changed her appearance and started out afresh. She was able to use a faceless corpse to fool everyone, and this includes the media. Upon hearing this, everyone on the site is thrown into confusion, and they start trying to solve the mystery behind Nanase. Saki is surprised to see this. she continues checking the wiki site to see how the people are actively coming up with their own conclusions. Saki realizes that Kotoko only used the third seed to sow seeds inside of the people on the site. The viewers of the site are now the ones trying to set it out that Nanase's ghost doesn't exist. The ghost starts getting weaker, and Saki believes that they have won, but Kotoko says not yet. She is yet to deliver her final blow of the day. Kotoko amps up her storytelling in front of an already captivated audience, revealing that Nanase wasn't just haunting the city in a costume for funsies. No, she had a full-blown digital ghost campaign running. She shockingly tells everyone that it was Nanase herself who had crafted the haunted wiki site. You could hear a pin drop as this revelation started cracking the spooky facade of Nanase's ghostly image. But the plot thickens. Kotoko didn't just stop there. She dives deeper, continuing that Nanase had also been playing editor-in-chief, tweaking her spectral narrative on the wiki to keep her ghostly legend alive. The viewers are now at the edge of their seats, the internet equivalent of a crowd leaning forward before the punchline drops. Just as Kotoko's unveiling set the forum on fire, everyone throwing in their 2 cents, memes, and wild theories, she explains the grim fate of poor Tarada. One fateful night, as Nanase pedaled her bike, not your average ghostly vehicle, but who's judging, she encountered Tarada. Attracted by her, conspicuous appearance, blame it on the melons, Tarada starts to connect the dots. He squints, probably thinks he's seeing a ghost, and confronts her. But before he can scream, "Eureka!" Nanase clocks him one in the face. Quick on the uptake, she escalates it from a knockout to a murder, smashing his head with a stone to seal the deal. Just like that, Tarada's fate was stone-cold sealed, and Nanase vanished into the night, leaving no trace behind but a chilling breeze and a mystery only Kotoko could unravel. Kotoko tells the viewers that Nanase is a criminal, and if she wants to prove that she is not, she should say that on the site. Meanwhile, the battle between Kuro and the ghost still continues. Kotoko declares Nanase the killer, and this entirely shatters the image that everyone has perceived. With this, Kuro is able to get the perfect future that they can use. Rika realizes that she no longer has the cards in her favor, and she drops the knife she intends to use to terminate herself. She no longer has the ability to control the ghost again, and Kotoko tells the viewers that it is time for them to vote. She wants to know if they still believe in the ghost or not. To vote, they only need to do this via their consciousness and what they believe in. Kuro grabs the steel beam and pushes into the ghost that is already lying on the floor. In the end, the majority concluded that Steel Lady Nanase was fiction, and this finally ends the ghost story. The ghost disappears alongside her beam, and everywhere returns to normal. Rika then sends Kotoko and Kuro an email that they have won this time, but there will be a next time. Saki wonders why Rika is doing everything that she is doing, and Kotoko says there are limitless possibilities to what the human mind can create. She makes a joke that the human mind is even capable of creating a divine being. Kotoko gets out of the car to meet with Kuro and commends him for the good job. She gives him a banana to eat so he can have his strength back. He doesn't want to take it, but the girl forces the banana into his mouth. Just then, several spiritual beings appear to thank the two for getting rid of the evil lady. The two quickly leave the scene before Saki faints inside the car that she is in. On their way, Kuro apologizes to Saki for not stopping Rika earlier, but Saki doesn't blame him because there is no way for him to know that Rika will terminate someone. The scenery has now changed from whether there is a ghost to trying to solve Nanase's mystery. Everyone wants to know if she is still alive and where she is hiding. Saki is impressed at how Kotoko solved the case, and says she would not want to have Kotoko as an enemy. She talks about how the police might want to look into the case, but they will eventually stop, because they will believe that they are being led around by rumors. Saki then returns to her normal life. Later that night, she meets with Kuro. She asks after Kotoko, but Kuro tells her that she is still asleep because she overworked herself during the battle against Rika. The two settle down in a restaurant to talk, and Kuro reveals that he has the belief that he will die of old age because he is basically aging. He cannot die by any other means, but he is hoping to die when he grows older. However, Rika is trying to make herself a normal human being again. This is the reason she is creating these monsters. She was admitted to the hospital where she tried to use science and logic, but this didn't work. She has now reverted to the creation of monsters in an attempt to create a divine being that will grant her wish to return to normal. After this discussion, the two finally find a way to find closure and let each other know that they are never coming back together again. Kuro then reveals that he is trying his best to protect Kotoko because Rika might actually come after her, since she has found that Kotoko is the biggest obstacle in her way. After leaving the restaurant, Kuro hands over Kotoko's bicycle to Saki. He tells her that Kotoko has given it to her, and she has also ordered the monsters in the city to stop appearing to Saki. The two then say goodbye to each other and Saki rides away on her bicycle. Shortly afterward, Kotoko wakes up and realizes that she has been asleep for over 28 hours. She is angry angry at herself for this, and starts imagining Saki and Kuro together. Moments later, she hears Kuro enter the door, and she rushes out of the bathroom to meet him. She is happy to see him, but she questions him about Saki. Kuro tells her that she has nothing to worry about concerning Saki, because he has even deleted her number. After this has been settled, the two leave the hotel room. They decide to take a walk to the train station instead of the taxi. On their way, Kotoko tells Kuro a story about her name, but everything Kuro is able to derive from this is how beautiful Kotoko is. She is blown away by excessive blushing, but decides not to show it. The two end up holding each other's hands, and Kuro tells her that he will be coming to her house, but he is not going to stay over. He still wants to retain the idea that he can escape from Kotoko, but Kotoko knows this is not possible. As the season comes to an end, Kotoko renews her vow to protect the two realms from each other and keep the order of things. A year after the first events that occurred in the first season, three yokais are seen discussing Kotoko and how she gave up one of her legs and one of her eyes to become their divine being of wisdom. One of the three, who is a ghost, appears to be ignorant, and this leaves the other two to explain things to him and how they work. They tell him about Kotoko's boyfriend, who looks absolutely scary, because he is basically a part monster. The ghost tells his comrades that there seems to be a monster in the condo that he is haunting, and this is really scary. Later on, Kotoko is contacted by this ghost to help him solve the issue concerning the condo. Apparently, every night the ghost hears a loud thud coming from the room above. He has never gone to investigate this because it sounds scary. The owner of the condo doesn't seem concerned too because the noise basically disappears after a while. However, the condo owner later got worried, and he told the manager about this. The manager then tells him that the room above him has been vacant for the past 2 months, and this only makes things even scarier. The manager decided to check out the room, but when he got there, he was scared. He sees a creepy doll lying on the floor inside of the room, and the doll is emitting a funny aura. The manager wastes no time in locking the door and running out because of this. The manager plans on talking to the owner of the building so that they can perform an exorcism, but he has not done that yet. To fully investigate the case, Kotoko suggests that she and Kuro move to the room since it is close to their school. Soon after concluding the investigation, Kotoko comes back to the three yokais to tell them what she has found out. She explains to them that the manager's pet was the cause for the thud that they have been hearing. Kotoko says the doll is a lie spawned by the manager to keep the tenants from knowing that he is keeping a pet. Pets are not allowed in the building, and this will prove to be bad on the part of the management if they find out that the manager himself is keeping a pet. Kotoko further adds that telling the people that an exorcism has been performed on the room will make the room and building retain its reputation. The reason why the manager lied so well about the issue is because the pet he was keeping was a reptile as a pet. Kotoko assures the ghost that she has sorted all the issues and has even found a way to punish the manager. She made the manager rent out the apartment to Kuro at a low price in exchange for keeping her mouth shut. With this, Kotoko easily solves another case that has been brought to her. After Kuro and Kotoko leave the scene, Kuro asks her why she lied to the yokais that there was no doll. Apparently there was a doll in the room, but Kotoko didn't want to tell them about it. She tells Kuro that it is risky to do so because the doll is powerful, and this might also ruin the reputation of the apartment. They have been paid to remove the doll and exorcise it, and this is what she plans to do. Kotoko then explains to Kuro what type of doll it is. She says the doll is a cursed doll that was crafted hundreds of years ago to ward off evil. It is very powerful, and Kotoko deduces that the former occupant must have found the doll and took it with him to his room. The doll was in hibernation, but after the occupant left the house, they must have done something to reactivate. The doll then begins his work from that night forward in order to ward off yokais and other spiritual beings. The doll will only protect where it is and will not leave the place, and this is the reason it didn't leave the room. Kotoko says the ghost who brought the case to her would have been exterminated if he had tried to investigate. It turns out that Kotoko and Kuro had earlier moved the doll to the words with the plan to come back and perform an exorcism. Kotoko had warned all of the yokais in the area to stay away till she had sorted out the issue. They get to where the doll is, and the true identity of the doll showcases himself. It has an image that resembles that of a sumo wrestler but has 4 arms and a horn. The loud thud that they have been hearing is the doll stomping on the floor. Kotoko realizes that the former occupant of the room was a sumo wrestler, and this was the reason he took an interest in the doll. However, he later sustained an injury and couldn't wrestle again. He then left the doll in the apartment when he was leaving. Kotoko then tells Kuro to fight the doll if they are to defeat it. The doll soon notices Kuro's presence, and he comes charging toward him. With his first hit, he breaks Kuro's arm. During the course of the fight, Kuro is killed, and he uses this opportunity to derive a future to defeat the doll. He manages to slam the doll to the ground, but the doll is too strong for him. The doll is about to crush his head when Kotoko steps in and pushes her staff into the doll's neck. Kuro finishes off the doll by spinning the staff and relieving the doll of his head. The doll is defeated, and the physical representation is destroyed. 11 years ago, two friends, Hayato and Masayuki, are seen hiking on the mountain when Hayato suddenly pushes Masayuki down the steep mountain. Masayuki lands on the lower part of the mountain but survives. However, he is unable to move his body, and realizes that he will probably freeze to death from this. Just as he thinks about this, a woman in white appears in front of him. The woman berates Masayuki for climbing the mountain with someone who doesn't like him, but Masayuki claims the guy was his trusted friend, and he has no idea why he did what he did. The guy doesn't know what the lady is, and she lets her know that she is a creature that humans of nowadays know as Yuki-onna. Masayuki believes that the lady is there to terminate him, but it is actually the other way around. She creates an igloo around him to keep him safe and get him through the freezing night. Masayuki asks Yuki why she is helping him, and she says she is doing this because she sees him as someone who is young and still has so much to live for. She then asks Masayuki if he has any money with him, and he says yes. The guy wonders why the lady needs money, and she replies that she uses the money to buy junk and the like. She can easily take what she wants without being seen, but she is indirectly killing the business person's business, and this will later affect her, so she is trying to avoid such a scenario. After this, Yuki leaves and hopes that the guy survives till the next day. The next morning, Yuki shows up and she is impressed that the guy is still alive. She then carries him from the mountain and heads down the mountain to put him where he will be safe. She warns him not to tell anyone about her or she will show up and terminate her. Meanwhile, Hayato is busy telling the cops that his friend fell into the snow and he wasn't able to rescue him. Just then, Masayuki enters the room and Hayato is left in total shock and surprise. Masayuki wastes no time in telling the cops that Hayato was the one who pushed him off the mountain. After this, Masayuki is taken to the hospital and cared for. He receives an offer from Hayato's parents so he can drop the case. He has no choice because they are wealthy and influential. He learned from the cops that Hayato tried to kill Masayuki because of a woman who likes Masayuki, but Hayato has a crush on her. Hayato decided to terminate Masayuki in order to use the grieving moment to get closer to his crush. Masayuki doesn't believe that someone who he called his friend from high school will actually try to terminate him. Masayuki lets go of the case, but reveals that he will never want to see Hayato again. Now in the present day, Masayuki is walking down the street when he sees a lady busy enjoying her ice cream, and he decides to buy one and also join her. It turns out that this lady is Yuki, and she is the one who saved his life 11 years ago. Yuki is surprised that the guy still recognizes her, and he lets her know that he can never forget the person who saved him. Yuki also recognizes the guy because spiritual beings not only use physical appearance to differentiate humans, but also use scent, color, and the like. As they continue talking, Masayuki tells Yuki that she is free to follow him home because he just rented an apartment on the outskirts of the town. Yuki figures that there is something wrong with the guy, and he reveals that his wife, whom he trusted deeply, had a lover and tried to murder him because of this. They divorced last June, and the company he also started after college was taken away by a bigger company because of a colleague's betrayal. Due to this, he has little or no trust for humans again. He is happy to have found Yuki because she seems like the only person she can talk to. Yuki likes money and says Masayuki will only get the best of her if he has money. Masayuki assures the lady that he has enough money to keep him afloat for the next 30 years. Upon hearing this, Yuki decides to be the man's confidant and someone he can talk to anytime he wants. They start going out together to buy things and also cook at the house. 4 months later, Masayuki and Yuki are at home, having fun, and Yuki uses this opportunity to tell Masayuki about Kotoko. Masayuki is surprised to learn that Kotoko is a human, and she is basically the divine being of wisdom. Yuki has asked Kotoko about her relationship with Masayuki, and she has gotten her blessing to stay with the guy. However, she has warned her not to use her power to influence the human world. Masayuki is known to stay at home and not leave the house. Even his neighbors are scared of him, but he doesn't seem to care about this. In the next scene, Masayuki and Yuki are home when cops show up at the door to tell Masayuki that his ex-wife, Miharu, has been killed, and he is the prime suspect in this. Yuki turns to a pet rabbit to prevent the cops from latching on to anything. She then takes the case to Kotoko for help in solving it, and also to vindicate Masayuki. The cops tell Masayuki that Miharu's body was found at a riverbed after she left work at around 7 p.m. Her face was bashed in with a blunt object. The cops then mention the reason why Miharu and Masayuki divorced. Masayuki is surprised to hear this because they have never told anyone about this before. The cops ask him how his ex-wife tried to terminate him, and he decides to tell them. He said this happened last March when Miharu put some sleeping pills inside of his energy drink, but he didn't get to gulp the entire body before leaving home. This was his saving grace, and he managed to make it to work without crashing. When he later found out about this and the fact that Miharu had a lover, he simply divorced her and even shared half his property with her. He also decided to keep it under wraps without ruining the lady's reputation. The cops realize that Masayuki is actually a very nice person, but they tell him that Miharu doesn't see him that way. Apparently, there is a note in Miharu's room indicating that if she ever dies, Masayuki should be held responsible. Masayuki tells the cops that he has nothing to do with the lady's death because he holds no malice toward her. The cops don't believe this and mention the fact that Hayato, who tried to terminate him some years back, is also dead. He actually died after 3 years of attempting this. To further solidify what they are talking about, they tell Masayuki that there is a writing on Miharu's palm that reads Masayu. They believe that the lady wrote this in her hand before Masayuki terminated her. Masayuki then further argues about this and says there is no guarantee that it was his name that was about to be written. The police then decide to ask him where he was on the night of the murder. The police have a picture of him with Yuki, but there is no way he can tell them that he was with Yuki. He is confused as to what to say, and the cops tell him that he has no choice but to follow them to the station for questioning. Yuki then waits for him at home till he comes back that night. Upon returning, he tells Yuki about everything and how things are a bit complicated because he cannot actually tell the cops that he is with Yuki. In reality, Yuki and Masayuki's ex-wife actually resemble each other. Yuki then asks the guy why he married a lady who looked like her, and he lets her know that Yuki's image never left his head. Masayuki is not ready to stay home without doing anything, and he decides to step out to investigate things by himself. He has the money and the time, and he is about to step out, but Yuki stops him because the police might actually be watching him. This is when it occurred to Yuki that they could ask for Kotoko's help in solving the case. After Kotoko finally agrees to meet them, Yuki carries him and heads to the mountains where Kotoko is waiting for them. Masayuki is shocked to find out that a young girl is the divine being of wisdom for spiritual beings. Kotoko introduces herself to Masayuki, and when she is asked about her boyfriend, she gets angry and says her boyfriend refused to come with her. After this, she returns to the main topic and says she has finished her investigation concerning what is happening to Masayuki. Since yokai's dates are different from human ones, she asks Yuki if she knows the day the murder happened, but she finds it difficult to answer this. Kotoko says it is possible that Masayuki actually terminated Miharu, but intentionally stayed with Yuki that night so that he could gain Yuki's trust. Since Yuki trusts him, Yuki would want to do anything for him. He can easily tell Yuki to terminate those who have wronged him in the past. Yuki hears this and starts to cry. Masayuki is blown away by everything he is hearing and doesn't even know if Kotoko is telling the truth or not. Masayuki cannot believe the fabrication that the lady has come up with, and when he tries to defend himself, he is just hit with another deduction that leaves him shaking. Just then, Yuki bows her head and begs Kotoko to please trust Masayuki because he is a good person who cannot do all the things that Kotoko has said earlier. Yuki claims that Masayuki is a kind man who is incapable of doing bad things. Kotoko then shocks them when she lets it out that she is aware that Masayuki is innocent. She says everything she has said is basically a lie that she fabricated. She knows that Masayuki is not trying to use Yuki for his own selfish reasons because he would have tried to sleep with her if he wanted that. Getting Yuki pregnant would have been the best way to get her to trust him, but he didn't do that. She only did that to show Masayuki how important he is to Yuki. She is ready to defy her who is a divine being just so she can prove to Kotoko that Masayuki is innocent. She then assures Masayuki that she has already solved the case, and she will explain to them in detail everything concerning the case. Kotoko tells Masayuki that she already knows who the culprit is, and even without her help, his chances of going to jail are now pretty low. She narrates that Miharu would have threatened Masayuki with the letter if he was the one who terminated her. In addition to that, he would try to have fun with her, or even try to rob her just so he could make it look like a robbery. There is no sign of this, and the police have been able to easily deduce that Miharu was terminated by someone who holds a grudge against her. In addition, the police would have continued investigating him when he was asked if he had an alibi, and he said yes. However, Masayuki was stammering, which means he didn't know what to say, and this proves to the cops that he was not prepared for questioning. This further shows that he had nothing to do with the lady's death because he would have prepared himself for when the police would come. Kotoko then tells them that the killer intentionally wrote Masayu on the corpse's name to direct the cops to Masayuki as the prime suspect. Masayuki starts to wonder who could have thought to frame him because he never told anyone about what happened between him and Miharu. Kotoko tells him that the killer is someone who is close to him and would have made sure that he had no alibi on the night of the murder. Before Kotoko can even mention the person, Masayuki already has it figured out that the only person who could have done this is Lizuka. Just then, he receives a call from Lizuka, but he refuses to pick up the call and he tells Kotoko about his relationship with Lizuka. He says Lizuka is his former worker who she left at the company after he was ran out of the company. He remembers getting a call from Lizuka the night of the murder to know if he was home. Kotoko then tells the two that Lizuku set her murder plan in action once she realizes that Masayuki is home and would have no alibi. Masayuki starts to wonder why Lizuka is trying to frame him for murder. Kotoko says she doesn't have the answer to that, but she suspects that Lizuka wants him, but Masayuki doesn't feel the same. She has been trying to get Masayuki to look at her, but Masayuki doesn't feel drawn toward humans again because of his past experience. When Masayuki asks Kotoko how she knows that the police are backing off about him, she tells him that she had some of her subjects spy on the cops. From the testimony she gathered, she realizes that Masayuki is not the culprit. Once this is settled, Kotoko stands up to leave, and she tells the two that they have her blessings. Just then, Kuro shows up from where he has been hiding. Yuki gets scared when she sees the guy, and she tells Masayuki that he is the one she told him about. She knows that Kuro means no harm, but she just gets scared when she is around him. Yuki carries Masayuki and takes him out of there, after thanking Kotoko for her help. After the two are gone, Kotoko tells Kuro more about what she has learned when it comes to the case. Lizuka approaches Miharu with the lie that there is something she wants to tell her about Masayuki. Miharu gets interested in this and asks Lizuka to follow her to the riverbed. Unknown to her, she has just provided Lizuka with the perfect opportunity to terminate her. They get there and Lizuka unleashes the hammer she has hidden in her bag. She then terminates Miharu with this hammer and sets the corpse up to frame Masayuki. Kotoko tells Kuro that Lizuka decided to terminate Miharu because she wanted a way to get closer to Masayuki. She wants to frame Masayuki for the crime and be the one to console him when he finally runs into trouble. She wanted to be the shoulder to cry on for Masayuki and use this to get into his life. However, she fails to calculate the fact that she will not have access to Masayuki when he is arrested for murder. Kotoko says it will take the police a long time for them to figure out the case, but by then, Masayuki should be strong enough to accept the truth. Yuki would have gotten closer to him too, and this would be the perfect healing stone for him. Kuro then mentions the fact that all of Masayuki's troubles have come with women. Kotoko laughs it off and says, Masayuki probably has bad luck when it comes to women. Even with Yuki, Masayuki can just get frozen anytime if he is not careful. Kuro then compares himself to Masayuki because he is basically suffering with Kotoko being his girlfriend. On the other hand, Mayasuki has now admitted to the fact that Yuki might be around longer than him, but he needs to make every moment special with her. It turns out that Masayuki is finally letting someone in after a long time. In the next scene, Kuro asks Kotoko if she has been able to track Rika down, but she says no. She has been making sure to keep her tracks clean since she escaped the last time. Rika doesn't stay in one place for long, and she stays in places that have less spiritual beings in the environment in order to avoid them spying on her. Kotoko then talks about how she once talked to Rika about what she fears the most. The only answer Rika gave her back then was that she was very scared of Kotoko. Kuro is surprised to hear this and he asks if Rika hates her, but she says no. The scene goes back to 2 months earlier before the present times. Rika is seen living in a new apartment that she just rented. She and the manager, Kazuyuki, seem to be fond of each other. Kazuyuki and his girlfriend Oki are busy discussing outside the apartment when she tells them that she is headed to the horse race. Seconds later, they hear a truck hit the lady. Rika is sent flying into the distance with red liquid spilling out of her mouth. A woman tells Kazuyuki and Oki that Rika got hit by the truck because she was trying to save her daughter. The manager is scared, but he is shocked when he runs toward Rika and sees her standing up. Rika claims that she is fine, and there is no single sign of injury on her body, even with the truck impact. Later that night, Kazuyuki and his girlfriend are busy discussing room 305, which Rika just moved into. Apparently, there have been 3 self-terminations that have occurred in the room, but Rika is unfazed. The manager doesn't know if she has any relatives because she only moved in with 1 luggage. The two sit down to watch the horse race, only to find out that the bet Rika made earlier has come through and she won a ridiculous amount of money. They are still in the middle of this conversation when Rika shows up. The two are surprised to find out that Rika has been discharged. They tell her about her winning, but she doesn't really seem to care. She is about to leave when the two invite her for dinner. While having dinner, they talk about the room that she moved into. After hearing the circumstances in which the previous 3 people died, she tells them that there is nothing to worry about. She assures them that there is nothing out of the natural that happened, and she associates it with natural causes. When asked why she moved into the room, she tells them that she is hiding from her cousin and his girlfriend. She claims that her cousin's girlfriend is making life difficult for her. She is then asked why she feels bad because of this, and she lets them know that she is supposed to be the one with her cousin, and not just any random girl. Later on, Rika comes to tell the manager that she is leaving, and she leaves him with a huge sum of money to take care of himself. She then begs him not to tell his cousin and girlfriend about her, because they have already found out her location. Now in the present day, Kuro and Kotoko arrive at the house. The first impression Kotoko gives the two is that she is an awful person. Kotoko and Kuro ask to be taken to the room where she moved out, and the manager obliges. Kotoko checks out the room to see if Rika left anything behind, but she finds nothing. She mentions the fact that Rika will now be more careful of staying in a place for too long. because she was almost caught this time around. After checking the room, Kotoko assures the manager that there is nothing supernatural attached to the room, and they can just go ahead to take someone else into the room. The manager then asked Kotoko to explain why the last person who terminated himself had to, because there was nothing wrong with him and was doing perfectly fine. Kotoko says the guy did this because he wanted to find out if he was the reason his ex-girlfriend terminated herself. Apparently his ex was the second person who terminated herself in the room after they broke up. However, the guy realized that the room wasn't haunted and decided to terminate himself after thinking too much about it. He didn't want society to blame him for his ex's death and took the bold step to terminate himself out of excessive guilt. After the two are gone, the manager and his girlfriend talk about what they have just heard concerning Rika and her relatives. They start wondering if she is just bitter and hurt that Kotoko took her cousin from her. On the other hand, Kotoko tells Kuro that she has realized that Rika is telling people that she is an awful person. Up next, an old lady, Tai, is seen working out in her house and having fun with her cat. It turns out that she actually found the cat on her doorstep some months back, and she took the cat in because it was weak. The cat has been with her since then and has refused to leave, serving as her companion. Later on, Tay is on her usual jog when she runs into the townspeople who are gathered at the shore. The mayor is also with them, and they are complaining about the number of dead fish that are coming ashore. This has been happening for the past month, and the fishermen in the town are already worried. They need to find a solution to this, or else they will run out of fish and fast. The fishermen are suspecting that a curse is affecting them, but Tay tells them not to think that way. They are calling this phenomenon the Zenta's curse. After telling them this, Tay resumes her jog, but the mayor follows her. Tay then narrates that Zenta is an old man whose son left the town to start a family. When the son came back, he came back with his son, Tsubasa, who is Zenta's grandson. Shortly afterward, the grandson is run over by a car. Unfortunately, the 4 tourists who were inside the car did not receive any punishment. It doesn't take long after this that Zenta dies from sadness. 1 month later, fish started dying, and people associated it with what happened to Zenta. The mayor, who is busy following Tai, then starts talking about what could have happened. Tay doesn't believe that Zenta is the cause of everything happening, but the mayor tries to call her attention back to the strings of events. He says Zenta probably hated the town for what happened to his grandson. In addition to this, he might want to do things that will chase tourists away from the town. Tay doesn't believe in all of these and says Zenta appears to be harmless. The mayor then reminds her that Zenta could have actually gotten someone to do it for him. Immediately he says this. Tay comes to a halt because she wants to hear what the guy has to say very well. The mayor reminds Tay that Zenta was carving a doll out of the woods before he died. Tay was the one who found Zenta's dead body, but there was no doll at the house. Tay actually remembers finding Zenta's body in his house, and the doll was standing in front of him, but when the first responders showed up, there was no sign of any doll at the house anymore. The mayor then talks about the possibility that the doll has received life from Zenta. Tay doesn't want to believe this because she is skeptical about the fact that the doll is responsible for the termination of fishes. After a long talk, Tay and the mayor come to the conclusion that a purification ceremony will be held, so that they can clean Zenta's name from whatever is going on. Tay returns home to find the cat talking to one of his ghost friends, and she tells the cat to stop inviting his friends over to the house. She has a lot to worry about already, and doesn't want more to be added to her worries. She just wants the cat to act like a normal cat, but there is no sign that something like that will ever happen. Tay then asks him if he knows anything about the fish that has been dying, but the cat says no. However, he decides to cooperate when Tay threatens not to give him strong wine again. He then tells Tay that Zenta's doll usually appears at around 1 a.m. He explains that the doll usually comes down from the mountain to the ocean, and it will come to the beach that is below Tai's house. Tay is blown away when she hears this. That night, the two decide to check out the beach. Tay is shocked to find out that there are many monsters around her house. Moments later, the doll shows up, and everyone, including the monsters, hides behind cover. Suddenly, a gorilla appears, and the cat assures Tay that the gorilla is there to fight the doll. At the same time, a giant crab also appears from the river. The gorilla and the crab plan to choke the doll and take it out together. However, the doll releases a burst of electrical waves from its hand and takes out the crab. The gorilla would have been terminated too, but it managed to block the attack with his weapon. The gorilla realizes that he is no match for the doll and chooses to stay back. The doll then proceeds underwater. The cat tells Tay that the electricity only comes out of the doll's right hand, but it is too fast for them to easily subdue. Just then, the doll releases a massive wave of electricity into the water. Tay is shocked to see this, and starts to wonder if Zenta hates the town so much that he will be willing to go this far. After this is done, Tay and the cat return home, and the cat tells her that the doll goes to the mountain to dry itself after it is done, but there is no one brave enough to follow it to know where it rests. Tai is worried about this, but the cat assures Tai that the spiritual being has taken the case to Kotoko for help, and she will be arriving the following day. The following day, Kuro and Kotoko show up at Tai's house. Tai is surprised to find out that a normal human is a divine being to the spiritual beings. Kuro brings a gift for the woman, and she invites them into her home to continue their discussion. After hearing everything concerning the doll and its making, Kotoko says it will be nice if she is able to get a hold of Rika, because she is the expert in this type of thing. Kotoko knows the doll was created out of a grudge, and the old man modeled the doll based on the Pinocchio movie, so the doll will be called Pinocchio from now on. Kotoko is shocked when she finds out that part of the doll is created from wood that has a meteorite in it. Tei explains that Zenta went into the forest to terminate himself, but this is when a branch containing a meteorite accidentally fell in his front. He took the branch home, and as time went on, he got infatuated with it. When Zenta told people about it, they laughed at him and didn't believe that there was a wood that contained a meteorite. The old man gets down to working on the wood with the hope that the stone embedded in it will have the power to grant his wish. He was hoping to bring his grandson back to life, and the only arm that has the meteorite in it is where the electric wave comes from. The cat is surprised to find out that the meteorite is what is giving Pinocchio the ability to use electrical powers. The cat is worried that they have no chance against a cosmic being, but Kotoko seems hopeful. Tai believes that Kotoko doesn't have the strength or the firepower to fight the doll, but the cat tells her that they have Kuro on their side, which is all that matters. He tells the lady that Kuro is powerful and can even be regarded as a monster. After gathering all the information that she needs to gather, Kotoko decides that setting a trap is the best option to get rid of the doll. She plans to bury explosives in the sand where the doll passes, and they blow it to bits once it steps on it. She then makes mention of an alternative in case they are unable to find explosives, and that is the use of flammable substances to get rid of the monster. Kotoko then says something strange concerning this. She wonders why the doll is not going after the 4 college students who were inside the car that terminated Zenta's grandson. It is evident that Zenta hates the 4, but there has been no news that the 4 kids have been dying mysteriously. Kotoko then assures Tai that she will find a way to destroy the doll without causing chaos or havoc to the townspeople. Later that night, Kotoko, Kuro, the monsters, and Tai get down to setting the trap for the doll. After all the preparations have been made, Kotoko shows up to tell Kuro that the doll is now headed to the shore. They have a couple of minutes to prepare, and she tells Kuro to be careful and avoid dying. She is only telling him this because the monsters are already complaining that she doesn't care about Kotoko. Shortly afterward, the doll starts to approach the shore, and Kotoko tells Tai that they need to be careful when it comes to terminating the doll. There are cursed dolls that are used in causing other people pain, and Zenta might have tied the 4 kids to the doll with the hope that terminating the doll will automatically get rid of the kids who terminated his grandson. Kuro starts to battle it out with the doll, but it is not an easy task for him as he gets electrocuted over and over again. Kotoko further explains that Zenta already had everything planned out. Since he resents both the town and the 4 people who terminated his grandson, he is basically using one stone to kill 2 birds. Once the townspeople gather to terminate the doll, the students will die, and this will leave the townspeople with deep regrets in their hearts. Zenta will be in the clear because he was not responsible for dealing the final blow. This is the reason Kotoko plans to unbind whatever curse is on the doll first before enacting her plan to destroy the doll. The doll soon steps on the marked spot, and Kuro uses the opportunity to grab the best future possible. The doll falls into a ditch, and the monsters pull a rope that is already attached to the trap to keep the doll from using its weapon. Kuro gets down to work, and he finds 4 names on the doll, but when he looks closely, he realizes that there is one other name on it, and that is Tai's name. Tai says the old man probably added her name to it because she seemed happy. To get rid of the names, Tei suggests that Kuro peel them off, and this is what he starts doing. He peels off Tei's name, and she doesn't feel a thing, which means she is in the clear. The doll is then destroyed, and Zenta later reveals the reason why Zenta carved her name onto the doll. She reveals how her children died when she was younger, and how her husband also died, but she has always seemed happy without showing her pain. She concludes that this is the reason Zenta wanted her dead. As Kotoko and Kuro head back home, it is revealed that the meteorite is now with Kotoko for safekeeping. Soon afterward, Kotoko meets with the president of the Otonashi group, President Goichi. He is a wealthy man who runs at least 200 hotels around the world, and he is opting to sit with Kotoko to have a one-on-one conversation with her. Goichi tells Kotoko that he is originally not from the Otonashi family. He was working in one of the hotels but was offered a management position, and after this, he got married to the CEO's daughter Sumi. Sumi gave birth to 3 children, and Kotoko makes mention of a story that she heard concerning Sumi. She was said to have been attacked and terminated by a burglar, but the culprit has not been apprehended since then. Goichi then surprises Kotoko by telling her that he is the suspect that they have been looking for. Goichi tells Kotoko that he wasn't the one who terminated Sumi, but he hired a fox named Yoko to do this for him. This happened 23 years ago, and he was able to learn about the supernaturals because he obviously runs a hotel. Kotoko is already getting uncomfortable hearing this, and she demands that the guy tell her where he is heading, because she only offered him an audience because her parents asked her to. Goichi explains that Sumi was trying to expand the hotels, and she doesn't care what happens to everyone else. She had her children incorporated in the business, and Goichi finds it hard to do anything about it. He is holed up at the mountain house one day thinking about this when Yoko appears to him and offers to help him. Goichi wanted Sumi dead in order to prevent her from corrupting their kids. Yoko then asks Goichi what he wants him to do, and he tells the fox to slay his wife, which he agrees to do. However, the fox also wants something in return, and this is the expansion of the mountainside. The fox wants Goichi to make sure that it is inhabited by humans, and Goichi accepts the deal. Once this is done, Sumo literally died 10 days later after she was attacked on the street. After the funeral is arranged, the fox appears to Goichi again and tells him not to forget about his promise, or else he is going to terminate him next. 6 months later, Goichi was able to develop the mountain, and things also started going well. His 3 children get detached from the hotel business and venture into something else in which they are now successful at. Goichi tells Kotoko that he will die in the next year due to an illness, but he hasn't told his family about this yet. He reveals that he is aware that what he did was bad and would not mind getting punished for it. Goichi actually has a plan to get his kids to know that he terminated their mother. He wants to do this before dying, and he needs Kotoko's help to achieve this. There is no way he can tell the kids that he hired a fox to terminate their mother without the help of Kotoko. Shortly afterward, Kotoko has 2 other foxes find Yoko and bring him to her. She assures Yoko that he will not be punished if he confesses to terminating Sumi. 2 weeks later, Kotoko finally tells Kuro about it and lets him know that the plan is still underway. She also has plans to break down all of the wealth that Goichi has gathered in the course of his life. In addition to this, Kotoko wants to scare Goichi's children and make sure that they have nothing to do with the supernatural again. She is also going to make sure that Yoko is punished for interfering in the affairs of the human world. Kotoko also wants to solve this in a way that Goichi will not feel so comfortable and relaxed that he can just go to the supernatural anytime he runs into a problem. Kotoko knows Goichi has a plan of his own, but she also has her own plan, which is going to negate that of the president. She is not going to reveal this just yet until it is time. Later on, Kotoko comes up with a plan. She tells Goichi that he is going to confess to his kids that he is the one who terminated their mother, and asks them to tell him how he did it. He is going to assure them that whoever gets it right will be entitled to the wealth that he has gathered so far. Kotoko wants Kuro to help out that day. He initially refuses the offer, but later changes his mind and tells Kotoko that he will help her. On September 3rd, Goichi gathers everyone whom he knows is connected to him and tells them the conditions surrounding the inheritance sharing. The people he gathered included his daughter's husband. Kotoko will be the presiding judge, and Goichi assures his family that they will see the truth after their answers have been presented. Kotoko tells them that the exercise will last for 2 days, and they have these 2 days to themselves to get the best answers. It turns out that Goichi's granddaughter Rian has been given an offer by the eldest son, Ryoma, to solve the case in his place, and if she manages to get the answer right, she is free to spend whatever inheritance she acquires any way she likes. Once all of them are seated, Kotoko tells them why the president chose her to preside over the case. In addition, she talks about whoever loses hurting her, but the group assures her that they are not going to do anything to her. She asks them if they know who she is, but they say no. Some of them have tried running a background check on her, but have all failed. One of them even had his nephew, who attended the same school as Kotoko, warning him not to get on the girl's bad side. After hearing all of these, Kotoko assures them that she is a cool person, and they have nothing to be scared of. Before Kotoko leaves the room, she tells the group that they are free to form an alliance. Once they get the answer right, they can split the inheritance, and they will also decide on how they want the rankings to be. Whatever they decide is what she is going to tell Goichi. She gives them an hour to think about this and leaves. Once she leaves the room, the group starts debating on how to go about the situation. They want this solved in the easiest possible way. Ryan is the calmest of them all, and she is trying to find the loophole in everything. She calms down to think about everything that Kotoko told them when it comes to the murder case. Kotoko later enters to explain in detail how the murder was carried out and the date. She told them how Sumi was terminated when she was leaving the hospital for her private checkups. Her purse was stolen, forcing the police to categorize the case as murder and theft. Kotoko also mentioned all the things that their mother had threatened to do to them when she was alive. She is fond of threatening them by kicking them out of the company if they fail to do what she wants. She says all of these are enough to make the kids want to terminate her, but are not responsible for the murder because they all had an alibi. She also mentioned the fact that Goichi himself was not even in the town when this happened. The entire group starts recanting how their day went on the day of their mother's death. It appears that every one of them had a strong alibi to fall on. After hearing all of these, Ryan gets angry and asks Kotoko if she is trying to insinuate that Goichi waited till all of them had a strong alibi before he could terminate their mother, but Kotoko says no. As the case proceeds further, Ryan talks about giving up because she cares less about the inheritance, but something is pushing her not to. Just then, the second son, Susumu, speaks out and reveals how he and the eldest son had plans to terminate their mother. However, their mother was terminated while they were still planning this. Ryan is surprised to hear this, and she talks about how her father and uncle were always arguing with each other and had never even been on good terms for years. Kotoko says this is happening because of what they had together years back. However, Kotoko knows that the two are not the culprits because they have a strong alibi to back themselves up. Just then, Susumu mentions the fact that their alibi was a fake. He says he and Ryoma actually planned out a fake fight to make everyone believe that they were in the office. They initially fight outside the office and then take it inside. They know that no one will come in to separate them, and one of them uses this opportunity to sneak out and terminate their mother. This is the plan they had, but assumes that Goichi learned of this and went ahead to terminate Sumi by himself. This is the claim that Susumu is presenting. He backs this up by saying Ryoma sent his daughter to the gathering because she wanted her to learn the truth. After Susumu says this, he reveals how relaxed he is to have told the truth after many years. It is now time for Karuko's confession, and she is represented by her husband. Kotoko suggests that Karuko's alibi was fake on the day of the murder. She went out that day, terminated her mother, came back into the house, and fractured her leg to make it look like she had been home all day. After hearing this, Karuko's husband, Koya, lets it out that the deduction is right. However, they were not the ones who terminated Sumi. They were still making plans when they were informed that Sumi had been terminated. He believes that Goichi learned of this and took the law into his own hands. The two groups talk about how they are relieved to have confessed. They turn to Kotoko in an attempt to know what is next, but Kotoko tells them that it is not yet over. She tells them that they have just been confessing their sins, but have not provided the real answer that she and Goichi want. She wants them to determine how Goichi terminated their mother, and this is the real trick that she wants answers to. After they hear this, all the concerned individuals head out to take a breather. After they are gone, Kuro heads to the bedroom to rest, and Kotoko joins him. Kuro talks about the methods that Kotoko is using to get the individuals to confess. She says Goichi doesn't know about this, but she is intentionally doing it. She even has plans to come up with a solution for them because she doesn't want to wait till they come up with their own solutions. Rion gets outside to call her father concerning what she just learned. She is surprised to hear this, but she isn't angry. However, she feels like her father should have come to the gathering by himself. His father says he was scared of Goichi denouncing him, and this is the reason he decided to send Rion. He then tells Rion about who her grandmother is and how she was a tyrant who only wanted her wish to be done. He says Sumi's father, Denjiro, was the one who laid a path for his daughter. He told her the things to be done, and the lady followed this to heart. To expand the business, she tried to hold down her children and get them to do her wishes. This was going smoothly while she was still alive. However, Ryoma knows that Sumi is Denjiro's puppet and can't say no to her father. She knew her children needed to find happiness, but there was no way for her to break them free. Ryoma then says his mother died at the right time because they were able to preserve the company, and her children also found happiness. He considers her mother to be lucky, but doesn't believe that he is right for trying to terminate her. After hearing everything her father has to say, Rion realizes that Kotoko has actually been trying to give her a hint. She has been able to figure something out from what her father says, and she ends the call afterwards. Upon returning inside the room, Rion tells everyone, including Kotoko, that she has figured out what she wants. Kotoko smiles when she hears this, and it is probably because of the fact that she has been laying everything out for her since the beginning. Ryan then spits out that she has come to the conclusion that her grandmother terminated herself. The others find it hard to believe this, and Ryan decides to explain to them. She says Sumi is a successful woman, but she is on the verge of failure, but doesn't want this to happen, because she will have to answer to Denjiro. Sumi realized that the only way out of the terror she was feeling and also to protect the company was to terminate herself. Susumu wonders why their mother didn't just disobey Denjiro instead, and Kotoko lets him know that she was under so much pressure, and terminating herself was the only solution that she saw. In addition, she decided to do it in such a way that would not appear to the public that she actually ended her own life. Making it obvious that she ended her own life would have destroyed the company's reputation. Rion then explains to them how Sumi made sure that she was all alone in an alley before bringing out a knife that she had hidden. She then holds the knife with her clothes to avoid leaving prints on it. After this is settled, she pushes the knife into herself and falls to her death. Susumu then questions why Goichi will claim to have killed Sumi when he wasn't the one. Rion says Goichi might have been the one who gave her the final push to do this, and by this, he feels responsible. Rion says all the push that Sumi needed was Goichi telling her that her kids wanted her dead, and she would jump into it without hesitating. After hearing this, Susumu feels sad, claiming that the children have something to do with her death, but Kotoko disputes this. He says there is no assurance that their father knew that they were planning to terminate their mother. He must have used the kids to get to Sumi. After presenting her answer, Kotoko asks the others if they agree with her, and they all say yes. Since they have all agreed to this, she tells them that she is going to present the answer to Goichi the following day at noon. She asks Ryan if she would like to tell Goichi the answer by herself, and she agrees to this. Everyone is relieved to have come to a probable solution, and there is an air of relief among them. The following day, Goichi tells them that their answer is correct, but lets them know that he has no idea about their plans to terminate their mother. He is relieved that he was able to do it before they executed their plan. He is ready to take the responsibility for terminating Sumi, and all he wants from them is that they should watch him die. This is when he lets them know that he will die soon enough. They are shocked to hear this, but they have no choice but to follow the old man's choice. Kotoko then tells him that Ryon has agreed to allow Goichi to split the inheritance the way he likes. Goichi then thanks Kotoko for her help, but she tells the man that there is no need to thank her because it is not yet over. Kotoko stands up to tell Ryon that Sumi didn't terminate herself. However, she was murdered, and Kotoko is ready to tell them who the real killer is. A flashback scene shows Kotoko interrogating Yoko, and he reveals that he wasn't the one who terminated Sumi. He only pretended to have done so in order to get the reward from him. He reveals that he was planning to attack Sumi on the day that she was alone, but while he was about to get into action, Sumi was ambushed by someone who terminated her. Yoko wanted to make it look like he did, and he quickly transformed himself into Sumi's appearance, and he cried out that a thief was attacking so that he could get the people's attention to the body. Kotoko easily figures out that Yoko knows who the killer is, and this is the reason he opted to protect them, and Yoko agrees to this. Yoko reveals that the real killer is Kaoruko, and this is exactly what Kotoko tells all of them at the gathering. Kotoko explains that Kaoruko approached her mother because of her relationship, and this is when she pushed the knife into her, and also made it look like a robbery. Kotoko faces Koya and lets him know that he gave up his lie when he was explaining how he and Kaoruko planned to terminate Sumi. Kotoko knows that everyone's confession pushed him to confess too, but he is the only one who is ready to allow Goichi to take the fall for the murder. Kotoko says she would have not said anything, but she decided to when she realized that Koya wasn't ready to come clean or even feel guilty for what happened. Koya gets angry when he hears this. He starts to debunk everything, trying to prove Kaoruko's innocence. Kotoko lets him know that Sumi also doesn't want her daughter to be punished, and this is the reason she shouted that a man attacked her so that the police can chase the wrong tail. Koya tries to get aggressive after hearing all of these, but he later calms down when he realizes that Kotoko has every corner covered. Goichi finds it hard to believe that his daughter is responsible for terminating her mother. Kotoko faces Goichi and tells him to do with the information whatever he wants. She has been able to teach him a lesson not to rely on or meddle with higher powers. This is the truth that he is forced to face after a long time. She tells him that his desire to terminate his wife shrouded him from the fact that his daughter could have done it. After saying all of these, Kotoko tells Kuro that it is time for them to leave. Just then, Koya pulls a gun on the two, preventing them from leaving the room. The Otonashi family is shaken when they see Koya bring out a gun. They try to persuade him to do this, but he insists that Kotoko and Kuro have to die. Kotoko tries to dissuade him, but he remains adamant. Kuro then decides to approach him in a friendly manner, but Koya fires a bullet into his head and Kuro falls to the ground, leaving all of them in total shock. He walks toward Kotoko with the intention of harming her, but Kuro comes back to life and takes the gun from him. Koya is gripped with fear when he sees this, and he starts shaking. Kuro drops the gun on the shelf, and Kotoko tells Goichi to do whatever he wants with what he has learned. After saying this, Kotoko and Kuro leave the room. Soon afterward, Kaoruko tries to terminate herself, but Koya saves her, and she has been stuck in the hospital for 2 weeks. She is scared that Goichi will bring the events to life. Goichi has also been down to the shock of everything he heard that day. Ryon, Susuma, and Ryoma talk about the events. Ryon says she will never want to come across Kotoko and Kuro again because she doesn't believe that they are humans. Later on, Goichi calls Kotoko and Kuro to his room to talk to them about Rika. Apparently, he heard of Rika before hearing about Kotoko. Rika was the first person he went to in an attempt to solve the case. He then reveals that Rika was the one who told him that Kuro and Kotoko can help him out. Looking back at it, Goichi is now scared that he even came to the two for help because nothing seems real to him again. Kotoko then starts to wonder why Rika wanted her to be the one to solve the case. Kuro says she must have done this to distract Kotoko from what she is planning next, or she did this to show Kuro how terrifying Kotoko is. However, Kuro is happy with the fact that Kotoko solved the case without putting any human emotions into it. Up next, two friends, Jujoji and Kaijo, are seen inside a Unagi restaurant having the best meal served to them. Kotoko is sitting at the other side of the room, and one of the guys, Keijio, finds it hard to take his eyes away from her. His friend finally asks him why he invited him to the restaurant, and he says he wants them to talk about his mental health. It happens that Keijio's wife is no more, and he has just been trying to cope with life. As the two continue to talk, Kajio's friend suddenly hits him with the blow that he is the one who terminated his wife, Yuki. His friend says he came up with this conclusion based on how the body was found. He continues by pointing out all the factors that surround Yuki's death. His friend claims that Yuki is planning to divorce Kajio because he is getting too clingy and Kajio wants none of this. In short, his friend deduces that Kajio killed the lady so that he can keep her forever. Kajio asks his friend for proof, but the guy says he has none. However, he is able to deduce that Kajio is the culprit with the way he reacts. He knows Kajio to be someone who would have wanted to find his wife's killer so he could terminate him rather than moping around about his death. His friend believes that he is satisfied with the outcome of the murder. After he has said all of these, Kajio asks him if he was the one who brought Kotoko along to try and corner him, but he says no. He reminds Kajio that he was the one who invited him to dinner not up to an hour ago. Kajio's friend suddenly bows to him and asks for his forgiveness. He has finally realized that Kajio is not the killer, because if he was the one, he wouldn't have the time to think about Kotoko, who is sitting across from them in the room. Kajio then asks Jujoji why he didn't take his hypothesis to the police, and Jujoji replies that he never had the intention to sell his friend out to the police. Just after the two conclude their deal, Kotoko stands up and walks out of the restaurant. Later on, the two friends leave the restaurant too. After separating, Kotoko appears to Kajio and introduces herself to the guy. She then tells him to hand himself over to the police, because they both know that he is the one who terminated his wife. Kajio then narrates how he actually terminated his wife. He didn't want anyone to have, and he ended her life by setting it up like a crook did it. However, he has not been feeling okay because of this. He was about to flip out when Jujoji accused him of this earlier on, but he managed to hold out and put together a smile. However, he has the intention to turn himself into the police. What actually surprises him is the fact that Kotoko, who is a total stranger, knows about this. He concludes that Kotoko is a private investigator who has been hired by his wife's family to look into him. Kotoko then tells him that he is wrong. He lets him know that she actually entered the restaurant out of sheer luck. It was when she was inside that his wife's ghost begged her for something. Kotoko lets him know that he has been having difficulties sleeping because his wife's ghost has been clinging to him. Kotoko then assures the guy that his wife has informed her that she will never leave him even if he turns himself in. This is because he might later get in the graces of society. His wife wants him to atone for his sins, and this is the only solution at hand. Kajio doesn't want to believe this, but suddenly feels himself being weighed down again. Kotoko tells him that his wife has decided to punish him because he is nothing but a heartless person. Kajio gets scared and he begs Kotoko to help him exorcise his wife's spirit, but Kotoko refuses. She lets him know that the only obligation she has is to the spiritual beings, and since Kajio broke the law, he is supposed to suffer for it. Kajio starts thinking of terminating Kotoko just like he did to his wife, but he lets go of the thought. Kotoko leaves and tells him that he has no choice but to continue living the way he currently is. That night, Kotoko meets up with Kuro, and she tells him about her day. After this, she urges him that they test out her fertility because this is the main reason she goes to the Unagi restaurant to have a meal. The two hold each other's hands while walking home with a smile on their face, and the scene turns black. At this point, we have reached the end of our video. If you like it, do not forget to put the like button and subscribe for more new videos.